Adrienne Bard is in Mexico, a reporter based there in Mexico for CBS Radio News, joins us by phone now. We just got this new video of the raid, Adrienne, and it does show the Marines going in. Can you give us a sense of how things unfolded based on that video?
Well, sure, Contessa. This video was taken by the Marines themselves. They're wearing cameras on their helmets. This was happening early Friday morning. It was filmed at the very moment when they moved in on the house in a residential area where El Chapo was hiding. Local Mexico media say that the Marines didn't expect to find as much resistance as they did, so many high-powered weapons, including at least one rocket launcher. But in the end, in this firefight, 5 of El Chapo's bodyguards were killed and no Marines were killed.
And yet, when you look at the firepower the government brought down to bear on El Chapo, he still escaped from this particular standoff and shootout.
Well, while this was going on, El Chapo and his right-hand man, Jorge Gastelum, were fleeing through the sewer. I mean, this is an amazing criminal mind. This is one of the great criminal minds of our times. They had actually planned to use the drainage system to go through the water if something like this happened. But since that's always been Chapo's MO, this time the law enforcement had him outsmarted, so he had to crawl through the sewer. And there's been a lot made of that filthy undershirt he was wearing when he finally was caught.
What about the fact that he's been now taken back to the very same prison that he was from which he was able to escape before? Clearly, it seems to indicate there's somebody on the inside who had to have been helping. Isn't there some concern that he just goes back in only to escape again?
Well, if you ask people on the street in Mexico about that, of course. I mean, I talked to people, out in the park, and they were saying they didn't even think it's El Chapo. They're so cynical, and they certainly they don't believe in their government anymore. But to the government's credit, I'll say that they have changed a lot of things, starting with they have a whole new team of people, the National Security Advisor, and they are taking, it seems, from what they're telling us, greater security measures today, where the Chapo is back at the Altiplano prison. There are 18 different security measures that anyone would have to go through to see him, and he is an area where he's isolated from other prisoners.
And the funny thing is, Adrienne, while you were talking about the skepticism about whether this is indeed El Chapo, we were showing the video of the Marine that's parading him onto the helicopter, and he forces this man to turn and look at the cameras, physically forces him to turn his face. The government clearly knows it's dealing with some skepticism about whether they really have the El Chapo or whether this is, a body double?
Well, that's what people here are saying. I mean, it's very unlikely that it is because they have made DNA tests on him, and they could make those available at some point. But, yes, it speaks to the level of disbelief, mistrust that Mexicans have over their government, and really, who can blame them? I mean, this man escaped from prison twice already, and just the way that he escaped last time through that incredible tunnel with a motorcycle in it, I mean, people are asking their government in Mexico to be accountable in some way.
Well, as Paula Reed just said, the most well-funded fugitive probably in the world. Adrienne, thank you so much for giving us the details on the ground there in Mexico City.